Good day everyone, I am Sarah Yashirda and I'm going to report about infection control principles and practices. Infection control principles and practices. So why study infection control and principles and practices? Cosmetologists should study and have thorough understanding of infection control principles and practices because, first, to be a knowledgeable, successful, and responsible professional in the field as cosmetology, you are required to understand the types of illness causing pathogens you may encounter in the salon. Second, understand the basic of cleaning and disinfecting and following federal, state rules and safeguard you and your clients. Third, understanding the cleaning and disinfecting product that you use and how to use them well help help keep you, your clients, and your salon environment protected from potential pathogens and their modes of transmission. Fourth, understanding and practicing proper infection control within federal, state, and local laws rules will safeguard your business from costly citations for safety violations. And the last one is respecting the chemicals used in cleaning and disinfecting by reading labels and following manufacturers' instructions necessary to reduce the risks involved with using any chemical. Meet the current regulations for health and safety. So first is the federal agencies. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, was created as part of U.S. Department of Labor, or DOL, to regulate and enforce safety and health standards to protect employees in the workplace. The standards set by OSHA are important to the cosmetology industry because of the product used in salons. OSHA standards address issues relating to the handling, mixing, storing, and disposing of products, general safety in the workplace, and your right to know about any potentially hazardous ingredients contained in the products you use and how to avoid these hazards. Employees should view OSHA as an agency designed to ensure a workplace for all U.S. workers. Safety Data Sheets, or SDS, replaces Material Safety Data Sheets, or MSDS. As of June 2015, both federal and state laws require that manufacturers supply a safety data sheets for all chemical products manufactured and sold. SDS contains 16 categories of information, and all SDS sheets will be organized identically. The categories are: first, identification. So identification, product, identifier, manufacturer, or distributor with contact information, recommended use of product, and restriction in use. Second is hazard identification. All hazards of using the chemical. Third is composition, or information on ingredients. Includes information on chemical ingredients. Fourth, first aid measures. Includes important symptoms, effects, acute and delayed required treatment. Fifth, firefighting measures. List suitable extinguishing techniques, equipment, chemical hazards from fire. Next is accidental release measures. List emergency procedures, protective equipment, proper methods of containment and cleanup. 7. Handling and storage. List precautions for safe handling and storage, including incompatibilities. Next, exposure controls, personal protection. List OSHA's permissible exposure limits, or PEL, or personal protective equipment, PPE. Next is physical and chemical properties. List the chemicals' characteristics. 10. Stability and reactivity. lists chemical stability and possibility of hazardous reactions. Next, toxicology information includes routes of exposure-related symptoms, acute and chronic effects. Next, ecological information includes effects on wastewater and environment. Next, disposal consideration includes proper disposal and disposal restrictions. Next, transport information includes restrictions on transportation. Next, regulatory information lists agencies responsible for regulations of product. Last, revision date lists original date of document of any revision. Federal and state laws require salons to obtain SDS from the chemical product manufacturers and or distributors for its professional product that is used. Not having SDS available poses a health risk to anyone exposed to hazardous materials and violates federal and state regulations. All employees must read the information included on each SDS and verify that they have read it by adding their signatures to a sign-off sheets for the product. These sign-off sheets must be available to state and federal inspectors upon request. Next agency is the Environmental Protection Agency or EPA. Registers all type of disinfectants sold and used in the United States. Disinfectants are chemical products that destroy most bacteria, excluding spores and fungi and viruses on surfaces. Hospital disinfectants are designed by the EPA as being effective enough to be used in a hospital setting. They can be used on any non-porous surface in the salon. Non-porous means that an item is made or constructed of a material that has no pores or opening and cannot absorb liquids. Hospital disinfectants control the spread of disease. Next is tuberculocidal disinfectants. Are proven to kill the bacteria that cause tuberculosis in addition to the pathogens destroyed through use of hospital disinfectants. Tuberculosis is a disease caused by bacteria that are transmitted through coughing or sneezing and is not transmitted on surfaces. Tuberculocidal disinfectants are one kind of hospital disinfectant. It is against federal law to use any disinfectant product contrary to its labeling. Before a manufacturer can sell a product for disinfecting surfaces, tools, implements, or equipment, they must obtain an EPA registration number and certifies that the disinfectant, when used correctly, will be effective against the pathogen listed on the label. State and the next agency is the state regulatory agencies. Exist to protect salon professionals and their clients' health and safety while they receive salon services. State regulatory agencies include licensing agencies, state boards of cosmetology, commissions, and health departments. Regulatory agencies require that everyone working in a salon or spa follow specific procedure. Laws and rules. So what is the difference between laws and rules? Laws are written by both federal and state legislators that determine the scope of practice and that establish guidelines for regulatory agencies to make rules. Laws are also called statutes. So rules and regulations. Rules and regulations are more specific than laws. Rules are written by the regulatory agency or the state board and they determine how the law must be applied. Rules establish specific standards of conduct and can be changed or updated frequently. Cosmetologists must be aware of any changes or updates the rules and regulations, and they must comply with them. So understand the principles of infection. Being a salon professional is fun and rewarding, but it is also a great responsibility. One careless action could cause injury or infection. The invasion of body tissues by disease-causing pathogens. If your actions result in an injury or infection, you could lose your license or ruin the salon's reputation. Fortunately, preventing the spread of infection is easy when you know proper procedures and follow them all at all times. Prevention begins and ends with you. So, infection control. In infection control refers to methods used to eliminate or reduce the transmission of infectious organisms. Cosmetologists must understand and remember the following 4 types of microorganisms, which is first bacteria, second viruses, third fungi, and the last one is parasites. Infectious disease is caused by pathogenic organisms that enter the body. An infectious disease may be spread from one person to another person. Cleaning and disinfecting procedures are designed to prevent the spread of infection and disease. Disinfectant used in salon must be bactericidal, capable of destroying bacteria, virucidal, capable of destroying viruses, fungicidal, capable of destroying fungi. Be sure to mix and use those disinfectants according to the instructions on the labels so they are safe and ineffective. So, types and classification of bacteria. So, bacteria are one-celled microorganisms that have both plant and animal characteristics. A microorganism is any organism or microscopic or submicroscopic size. Bacteria can exist almost anywhere, on skin, in water, in the air, in decayed matter, or in environmental surfaces, in body secretions, on clothing, or under the free edge of nails. Bacteria are so small they can only be seen with microscope. So, types of bacteria. Most bacteria are non-pathogenic. In other words, they are harmless organisms that may perform useful functions. They are safe to come in contact with since they do not cause disease or harmful. Pathogenic bacteria are harmful microorganisms that can cause disease if infection in humans when they invade the body. Salons and schools must maintain strict standards for cleaning and disinfecting at all times to prevent the spread of pathogenic microorganisms. So there are classifications of pathogenic bacteria. The first one is Staphylococcus, are performing bacteria that grow in clusters like bunches of grapes. So here's the picture. The second one is Cocci, are round-shaped bacteria that appear singly or in groups. So here, there is this picture. Third is Streptococci, are pus-forming bacteria arranged in curved lines resembling a string of beads. So, like this. And then, the fourth one is Diplococci, are spherical bacteria that grow in pairs and cause disease such as pneumonia. So, like this. And bacilli are short, rough-shaped bacteria. They are the common bacteria and produce disease such as lockjaw, typhoid fever, tuberculosis, and diphtheria. And the last one is Spirillea, are spiral or corkscrew-shaped bacteria. They are subdivided into subgroups such as syphilis, a sexual transmitted disease or STD, and Lyme disease. So, movement of bacteria. Movement bacteria, there are different bacteria move in different ways. So first is motility, is the term used to describe self-movement. Causes rarely demonstrate motility and are generally transmitted in the air, in dust, or within the substance in which they settle. Bacilli and Spirilla are both capable of movement and use. So the next is flagella, move in a snake motion. And then the last one is cilia, move in a rowing-like motion and shorter than flagella. So bacterial growth and reproduction generally consists of an outer cell wall that contains liquid protoplasm. Bacteria grow and reproduce. The life cycle of bacteria consists of two distinct phases, the active stage and the inactive or spore-forming stage. So first is the active stage. During the active stage, bacteria grow and reproduce. Bacteria multiply best in warm, dark, damp, or dirty places. When conditions are favorable, bacteria grow and reproduce. When they reach their largest size, they divide into two new cells. This division is called binary fission. The cells that are formed are called daughter cells and are produced every 20 to 60 minutes depending on the bacteria. The infectious pathogenic Staphylococcus aureus undergoes cell division every 27 to 30 minutes. When conditions become unfavorable and difficult for them to thrive, bacteria either die or become inactive. So next is the inactive or spore-forming stage. The stage where a bacteria that is capable of forming a spore to protect itself to withstand an environment incompatible with its existence. Bacterial spore is the ability of certain types of bacteria to form a hard keratin coating that will protect it until the environment is more favorable. Certain bacteria, such as the bacteria that cause tetanus and botulism, among others, can coat themselves with wax-like outer shells during unfavorable conditions. This makes them able to withstand long periods of famine, dryness, and unsuitable temperatures. In this stage, spores can be blown about and are not harmed by conditions such as extreme heat or cold. Bacterial spores can only be destroyed through sterilization or bleach disinfecting wipes designated as sporicidal. However, none of those spore-forming bacteria are known to present an infectious risk in the salon environment. When favorable conditions are restored, the spores change into the active form and begin to grow and reproduce. Bacterial infections. You may have a client who has inflammation, a condition in which the body reacts to injury, irritation, or infection. An inflammation may be characterized by redness, heat, pain, and swelling. Pus is a fluid containing white blood cells, bacteria, and dead cells, and is the byproduct of the infectious process. A local infection, such as pimple or abscess, is confined a particular part of the body and appears as lesion containing pus. A systemic infection is an infection where the pathogen has distributed throughout the body or a a system of the body rather than staying in one body, area, or organ. So, some types of infectious staph bacteria are highly resistant to conventional treatments due to incorrect doses or choice of antibiotic. An example is staph infection called methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus or MRSA. MRSA occurred most frequently among the person with weak immune systems or among people who had undergone medical procedure. When a disease spreads from one person to another person, it is said to be a contagious disease, also known as communicable disease. The second type of microorganism, which is the viruses. A virus is a submicroscopic particle that infects and resides in the cells of a biological organism. Viruses are so small that they can only be seen under the most sophisticated and powerful microscopes. One difference between viruses and bacteria is that a virus can live and reproduce only by taking over other cells and becoming part of them, while bacteria can live and reproduce on their own. Also, bacterial infections can usually be treated with specific antibiotics, but viruses are not affected by antibiotics. So next is the biofilm. Researchers are learning that biofilms play a large role in disease and infection. Biofilms are colonies of microorganisms that adhere to environmental surfaces as well as the human body. They secrete a sticky protective coating that cements them together and is hard to penetrate. It grows into a complex structure with many different kinds of microbes. Biofilms are usually not visible and must grow very large to be seen with the eyes. Terms related to disease. Term allergy. Allergy reaction due to certain foods, chemical, or other normally harmless substances. Next is contagious disease, also known as communicable disease, a disease that is spread from one person to another person. Next, contamination, the presence of the reasonably anticipated presence of blood or other potentially infectious materials on an item's surface or visible debris or residues such as dust, hair, and skin. Next is the decontamination, the removal or blood or other potentially infectious materials on an item's surface and the removal of visible debris or residues such as dust, hair, and skin. Diagnosis, determination of the nature of disease from its symptoms and or diagnostic test. Disease, an abnormal conditions of all or part of the body or its systems or organs that makes the boy incapable of carrying a normal function. Next, exposure incident. Contact with non-intact skin, blood, body fluid, or other potentially infectious materials that are the result of the performance of an employee's duties. Next is infectious disease, disease caused by pathogenic microorganisms that enter the body. Next, inflammation, condition in which the body reacts to injury, imitation, or infection. Next, occupational disease, illness resulting from condition associated with employment such as prolonged and repeated overexposure to certain products or ingredients. Next, parasitic disease, disease caused by parasites such as lice and mites. Next, pathogenic disease, disease produced by organisms including bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. The last one is systematic disease, disease that affect the body as a whole, often due to underfunctioning or overfunctioning internal glands or organs. So that's all. Thank you for watching and listening. God bless everyone.